I was never the problem, but they sure made me feel like I was. I heard those words through the crack of a kitchen door, and they shattered something in me I've never been able to fully explain. It was a late summer night, the kind that usually smells like barbecue and family and laughter. Instead, it smelled like betrayal. My cousin's graduation party was in full swing, but I wasn't partying. I was frozen in place, holding 2 cups of punch, listening to my own mother tell my boyfriend he should marry my sister. She said it so casually, like she was recommending a movie. Audrey is sweet, but Elizabeth, she's the one with real potential. She'll push you forward in life, not hold you back. My mother's voice was light, breezy, like my heart wasn't in the room, being stomped on. And Mark, he just stood there. He didn't say a word, not one word for me. I watched him nod slowly, like he was actually considering it, not laughing, not defending me, just listening. And when she added, "They've always had more chemistry anyway," I swear I felt my knees buckle. I backed away before they saw me, 2 untouched drinks in my hand. 2 people I trusted already deciding I wasn't enough. The next few weeks were a slow death. Mark started pulling away, little by little, canceled plans, weird excuses. I bumped into Elizabeth downtown. It'd be weird not to say hi. That's what he said when I found texts between them. Lunches I never knew about. Conversations I wasn't invited to. It was like I was slowly disappearing from my own relationship. Family dinners turned into war zones. Me, sitting across from my sister, watching them exchange private smiles, whispered jokes, my stomach in knots, my mind spinning, my heart begging me to wake up from whatever nightmare this was, and everyone else pretending like it was normal, like I was the crazy one for noticing. The night I found Elizabeth's blouse on Mark's floor, I already knew, but seeing them tangled in his bed, hearing the sound of them, it broke me in a way nothing ever had. She didn't even flinch, just looked at me like I was an inconvenience. "Maybe this is for the best," she said. And Mark, he couldn't even look at me, couldn't even say sorry. I left in silence. No screaming, no crying, just numb, hollow, like someone had scooped out everything soft inside me. And when I confronted my mother the next day, she looked me in the eye and said, "Don't be so dramatic, Audrey. Elizabeth and Mark make more sense. You'll find someone better for your temperament." Like I was some delicate flower nobody wanted, and that's when I knew I was never the problem. I didn't pack much, just what fit in my car. My mother's kitchen still smelled like lemon cleaner when I left the note. No long explanations, no dramatic monologues, just 3 words: watch me thrive. It felt like all I had left. That, and a fragile sense of dignity clinging to my ribs like cracked porcelain. Chicago didn't welcome me with open arms. It slapped me with rain, parking tickets, and overpriced motels that reeked of cigarettes. But I didn't care. I wasn't looking for comfort. I was looking for escape. A place where nobody knew I'd been left for my own sister. A place where my name wasn't attached to failure. The first night in that motel, I cried. 5 minutes. I set a timer. After that, I opened my laptop and applied to every job I could find, from gallery assistant to receptionist to dog walker. Anything that would keep me from crawling back to Philadelphia with my tail between my legs. I refused to be the punchline of someone else's story. I found a studio apartment in Uptown, the kind with peeling paint and noisy pipes. My neighbors were students. Single moms, late shift waitresses. We shared stories in the laundry room like we were survivors of the same shipwreck. I was finally surrounded by people who didn't know me, and that anonymity felt like freedom. Money ran out faster than hope. I skipped meals to make rent, sewed a button back on the same department store dress 3 times to keep wearing it, to interviews. One day, I walked into a building I didn't recognize anymore from the dozens before, Meridian Investment Group. I was there for an admin job. I left with something else. Patrick Reynolds didn't look like a CEO. He looked like a man drowning in paper and coffee cups. He offered me a different job than the one I came in for, assistant to a junior associate. I said yes, before I even understood the offer, because something about his tired eyes and messy desk made me feel like maybe I wouldn't have to pretend so hard here. The work was brutal, long hours, sharp learning curves, but there was no gaslighting, no silent treatment, no one calling me dramatic for asking questions. Patrick didn't smile often, but when he did, it felt real. He didn't make me feel like I had to compete to matter. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't shrinking to fit in. Late nights became lunches. Lunches became jokes. Jokes became something neither of us wanted to name yet. He never asked about my past, never pressed, just gave me space to be exactly who I was in that moment. And somehow, that made me want to be more. Not for him, for me. One night, I caught him looking at me differently. Not like a boss, not like a man who pitied me, but like someone who saw me, not what I'd lost, but what I could become. And in that moment, something shifted inside me, not healed, but awakened. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was rebuilding. 6 months after I started working for Patrick, he slid a business plan across the table instead of a paycheck. We were at a dingy diner eating cold fries after another 16-hour day. "I'm leaving Meridian," he said, "starting something new, and I want you with me." Not as his assistant, as his operations manager. I laughed at first. I thought he was joking. I barely knew what half the finance terms meant, but he wasn't joking. "You understand people," he said. "Systems, pressure. That's more valuable than a degree." And for the first time, someone saw my instincts as skills, not flaws. We launched Reynolds Capital Partners from my one-bedroom apartment. The dining table became our desk. Our office was wherever there was Wi-Fi. I worked part-time at a gallery to cover bills. Patrick pitched to clients like his life depended on it. Sometimes it felt like it did. There were days we didn't eat until midnight. Nights I cried from stress in the bathroom so he wouldn't hear. But we never gave up. And slowly, painfully, we started to grow. One client led to 3. 3 led to 6. I built systems, drafted contracts, created workflows. Patrick built relationships, trusted me with decisions. We became something like a machine, 2 parts moving in sync. Never perfect, but powerful together. It wasn't glamorous. We didn't have flashy offices or fancy parties, but we had purpose, integrity. We didn't just want to make money, we wanted to help people build something better. First-generation entrepreneurs, sustainable energy startups. We were building something that meant something, and I was proud of every second. 6 months in, Patrick kissed me. It wasn't planned. It was after a long meeting, on a snowy sidewalk, under a street lamp that flickered like a bad cliché. But it didn't feel cliché. It felt inevitable, like 2 people who had been holding their breath for months, finally exhaling. We kept it quiet. Business first. But our lives blurred together in ways we couldn't untangle even if we tried. Spreadsheets and coffee dates. Strategy meetings that turned into late-night talks about childhood wounds and half-forgotten dreams. He never rushed. Me, never pressured, just stood beside me, steady and sure. A year later, he proposed on our living room floor. No ring, no speech, just be my partner in everything. And I said yes, because I wasn't just building a life. I was building this life with a man who saw me, all of me, not in spite of my scars, but because of them. We married in a courthouse with takeout for dinner. No big ceremony, just us, Jamie and his brother. It was quiet, simple, honest, and somehow it felt like everything I'd never had, all at once. I wasn't anyone's backup plan anymore. I was home. Our company grew faster than we ever imagined. What started as a 2-person operation at a dining table turned into a real office, then a second, then clients from across the country. Patrick handled vision and strategy. I handled operations and people. We balanced each other. His fire, my structure, his boldness, my caution. People started noticing, asking how we built something so solid, so fast. The truth was simple. We listened to each other. We respected each other. No ego, no power games, just real partnership. It didn't always look like love from the outside, but that's exactly what it was. Love that showed up, stayed late, and carried its weight. We bought a house. Nothing huge, but big enough for dreams we hadn't even spoken aloud yet. A garden, a second bedroom we pretended wasn't already being imagined as a nursery. Life was good, quiet, purposeful. My past in Philadelphia started to feel like a blurry nightmare I had finally woken up from. Jamie visited often. She was my bridge back to the girl I used to be. She never brought up my family unless I asked. And honestly, I didn't. I didn't care what Elizabeth and Mark were doing. I didn't care what lies my mother was still telling herself. I had everything I needed. Until the past knocked on my front door wearing a business suit. Patrick slid a magazine across the table one morning. "Thought you should see this before it hits the office." I read the headline, "Davis and Associates faces bankruptcy." My heart stopped. My sister's law firm, the one Mark joined, the one they built together after destroying me. Apparently their expansion failed. Clients left. Debt mounted. And Mark? He was now a low-level compliance officer at Meridian, the same company Patrick and I were considering acquiring. "We can walk away," Patrick said simply. "I don't care how smart the move is. I care about you." I couldn't speak for a long moment. It wasn't anger I felt. It wasn't even satisfaction. It was something emptier, something quieter. "No," I said finally. "This is business. Just business." And I meant it, because their collapse didn't make me feel vindicated. It just made me realize how far I'd come. A week later, we finalized the acquisition, and Mark, he now technically worked for us, We should host a gala, Patrick said one night, casually, like he was suggesting tacos for dinner. Celebrate the acquisition, showcase the expanded portfolio, invite Meridian's team, including Philadelphia. My hand froze mid-air, holding a pen above our quarterly review notes. You want me to invite them? He looked at me gently, like he always did when navigating my scars. Not for revenge, for closure. He didn't know the whole story. Not yet. I'd never told him everything about what my mother did, what my sister took, what Mark chose. But that night, I did. Every word, every crack, every bruise. He listened, without flinching. No pity, no outrage, just quiet understanding. When I finished, he said, "You don't have to prove anything to them, but maybe it's time they see who you became. Not to punish them, but to finally, completely let them go." And something inside me loosened. I agreed. Invitations went out. Formal, elegant, sustainability-themed. For my family, I added a handwritten note. Looking forward to showing you the life I've built. Audrey Reynolds. It wasn't just a name. It was a statement, a reclamation, a flag planted on the mountain I climbed alone. The dress was emerald green, sleek, strong, like armor, but softer. My hair, once long like Elizabeth's, now in a sharp bob. Simple diamond pendant, confidence in every step. Patrick at my side, adjusting his cufflinks with quiet pride. "Ready to face your past?" he asked. "No," I replied. "I'm ready to showcase my present." The museum sparkled, every detail perfect. Jazz in the background, champagne flowing, clients, investors, colleagues mingling in curated grace. And then they walked in. My mother first, stiff in her tailored navy dress, then Elizabeth, on Mark's arm. Her eyes scanned the room like a threat, his like a question. I didn't approach them. I let them look, let them see me laughing with the mayor, let them hear others call me Mrs. Reynolds, co-founder, visionary. When we finally crossed paths, my mother smiled too wide. "Audrey, you look stunning." "Mother," I said steady, "glad you could make it." Patrick stepped forward. "This is my wife, Audrey, the backbone of everything we've built." Elizabeth blinked. Mark's jaw twitched. They hadn't expected this version of me, the woman who wasn't begging for scraps, who hadn't been broken, who had rebuilt herself, and it was only the beginning of the night. Dinner was served with flawless precision, sustainable seafood, local wines, conversations flowing like music. I moved through the room with ease, greeting board members, clients, executives, people who saw me not as someone's sister or someone's ex, but as someone important, someone who mattered. I caught my mother watching me. Her smile never reached her eyes. Elizabeth clutched her champagne like it was armor. Mark stood slightly behind her, noticeably quiet. When Patrick took the stage for his speech, I felt their eyes burning into me. He spoke of growth, of purpose, of shared vision. Then came the moment. "We're proud to welcome Meridian into our family of companies," Patrick announced. "Please join me in welcoming their compliance officer, Mark Davis." The spotlight found him. He froze. Elizabeth's mouth tightened. The applause was polite, obligatory, but the message was clear. The hierarchy had shifted. After the speech, my mother found me at the dessert table. "I always knew you'd make something of yourself," she said, sipping champagne like it absolved her. "You had such potential." I stared at her. "Did you?" I asked softly. "Because I remember you saying Elizabeth was stronger, better, the achiever." She laughed awkwardly. "Mothers say things to push their children. Maybe I pushed too hard." She touched my arm. "But look at you now. I suppose I should thank Patrick. He clearly saw something in you." I smiled politely. "He did, but I built it. We built it, together, because we believed in me." Elizabeth approached. Then, eyes sharp, voice controlled. "Your husband is impressive. You've done well." I heard the subtext loud and clear. "You got lucky." I looked her in the eye. "We've done well. That's what real partnerships look like." Mark didn't speak. He didn't have to. His face said everything. Confusion, regret, defeat. I stepped away after that, not out of pettiness, but because I didn't need to prove anything more. I'd already said it all by existing in that space, unapologetically powerful. The rest of the night passed in a blur of handshakes, toasts, quiet vindication. Their discomfort wasn't my prize, my peace was. After the last guest left, Patrick and I stood alone in our kitchen, eating leftover cake straight from the box. My heels were off, hair down, dress unzipped just enough to breathe. "How do you feel?" he asked, his voice soft in the quiet. "House." I took a long breath before answering. "Lighter," I said, like I finally set something down I didn't know I'd been carrying. He nodded, sliding a fork into the frosting. "They seemed smaller than I expected." I thought about that. "They are smaller, Or maybe I'm just finally bigger, not in status, in peace. Because standing there, surrounded by everything I'd built, with love, with grit, with no shortcuts, I didn't feel revenge. I felt gratitude, not to them, but to the path their cruelty had forced me onto. If they hadn't betrayed me, I never would have left. I never would have found Chicago, found Patrick, found myself. We climbed the stairs, still half-dressed and half-exhausted, but in my chest, there was a quiet triumph. Not for the woman I proved them wrong to become, but for the woman I always was. The one they underestimated, the one they tried to rewrite, the one they laughed at. They thought they broke me. They only built my foundation. I don't need their approval. I don't need their apology. And I sure as hell don't need their version of closure. What I have now is real. Love without power. Games. Success without compromise. Peace without silence. I'm not his clown. I'm not their scapegoat. I chose peace. And they watched me thrive.